Hello and welcome to the Wealthy Wellbeing Podcast, where we discuss all things health, fitness, real estate, and entrepreneurship. My guest today is Jacob Debach. Jacob, thank you so much for coming on today.
What's up, Zach? Glad to be here, brother.
So we met through Jessica Stan's business coaching course or program. You're a real estate investor. You have your buy and hold business. You were in the Army before, but and obviously I know you a little bit. So why don't you give everybody a little bit of a background on who you are, what got you to where you are, and yeah, we'll just go from there.
Yeah, Zach, thanks for having me, brother. So a little bit about myself. I grew up in Alaska. I never really knew what I was going to do getting out of high school. So I ended up being in the Army for about 6 to 7 years. I spent most of my time in Colorado and then going around the world. Amazing time, amazing discipline. Like I learned a lot, and coming out of the Army, I never really thought much about what I was going to do because I knew I was going to do something that I liked. So I had a few people like convince me to go try to sell insurance and set up retirement accounts, dude, and I hated it. It was miserable. So I've always heard of wholesaling real estate, and that always kind of appealed to me, but it was kind of one of those things where you have to, and you know this, you have to like put yourself out there. You have to go and be your own boss. And I never really knew how serious that actually was. So after trying a few jobs after the Army, for a year, I was like, dude, I want to work for myself. I don't want to work for the man anymore. Coming out of the Army, that is everyone's mindset. so, so I was like, I'm gonna try this wholesaling thing, and I got started by I met a guy who sold cars and did wholesaling on the side, and he had a dialer, and he would just sit in his room and call, and I'd go hang out with him, and he'd teach me how to talk to people and just put me out there. He did all that. His name's Adam Kronberger. He's out of Colorado Springs. Super awesome guy. But so I did that for a little bit, and I kind of found myself in analysis paralysis for quite a while. I got really caught up in the process, and I had to have all the answers before I really went and did it full time. And I was actually a farrier at the time as well, so I was doing that job. And a farrier, I don't, if nobody knows, a farrier does horseshoes for horses. So I was on a pretty cool team in the Army where they sent me to school to be a farrier for the Army's forces. So I was shooing horses out of the Army and learning how to get into real estate, and I just got caught up in the process for like almost 2 years. So after Colorado, I actually came up here and started wholesaling, and I did my first few deals up here, and everyone said that's a horrible place to start doing wholesaling in Alaska. But I did it anyways, man. I was door knocking, I was calling, I was telling everybody, and I ended up doing some deals. So it was a great experience. I didn't still at that time I didn't really know a whole lot about business, and from there I was like, I like it. I like doing this, but I don't really see myself doing this forever. I'm wearing all the hats in this business and doing all the things, making all the noise, and it just wasn't what I envisioned it being. So on one of my trips down to Arizona for the wholesaling summit, this was a year. This was like 2 years ago now. It was Brent Daniels had put it on, and I met Pace Morby there, and I told him what I was doing. I was like, "Hey, I'm wholesaling in Alaska." He's like, "Dude, no way! I don't know anyone doing that up there except for one person, and he's not wholesaling. So he mentioned Jesse Stan, and I came up here, and I remember reaching out to Jesse a few times. It was kind of hard to get his attention because he's just such a busy guy.
Hmm.
So I kept bothering him, and after a while, I got to meet him and figure out what he was doing, and I ended up getting into his mentorship just because I needed something. If I was going to go forward with it, um, I needed someone to kind of guide me. And I think that knowledge is definitely power, but commitment is even more important. So I committed to this mentorship. I committed to, going for my end goals, which was buying my own properties. And that's just what Jesse was saying. He's like, hey, like, I get you're doing wholesaling, but why don't you just go for your end goal now? Why are you waiting
Hmm.
around for this? So I was like, yeah, you're right. Why am I waiting around? Like, I'm almost 30 years old. I need to get after it. So it's been a journey ever since. Um, and it really hasn't been that long, but it's been a ride for sure.
Yeah,
So
there's definitely ups and downs in real estate and any business and getting started in anything new. You mentioned wholesaling, so just for people who may not be super familiar with real estate and wholesaling in general, what is wholesaling? What's your definition of wholesaling? What were you mentioned some of the stuff you were doing, but what does that look like?
yeah, in my own opinions, wholesaling is one of the many ways to do real estate. It's a great way to get started in real estate because you get to learn how to find out what the value of properties are, and you don't have to have all the money to pay for them. So basically, it's where you get a contract for a piece of property. You get the rights to purchase the property, and you basically sell that contract to an end buyer or some another investor. I call them my partners. I just say, hey, wholesaler, or hey, seller, I'm a buyer and I have partners and blah blah blah. So that's kind of how I look at wholesaling. And
Right. Yeah, yeah, and what attracted me to wholesaling. Where I got into real estate too. I wholesaled for a while as well, and it's kind of seemed like an entry level spot. That's why I started. Like you said, you learn a lot through it. You have to know your numbers. You have to make sure you know compare to the right properties and you have the right ARV, and you have to build that network of buyers at the end. Right, the goal is to help somebody out of a situation and to provide a solution that they might not have, whether it is just a quick sale or they're underwater or it's foreclosure, and getting it at that right price to be able to sell it to somebody else for a markup. And you have to there's a lot of components that, like you said, you were wearing all of the hats. So in wholesaling, what are some of the hats that you had to wear to get these properties from lead coming in to closing so you can get paid?
yeah, there's a lot. So I'll just kind of go over my last deal. It was pretty crazy. So I door knocked on this lady's house, which door knocking is it takes time. You're driving around, you're spending money on gas, you're trying to find properties, but sometimes driving for dollars is the you find the best properties. So knocking on this lady's house, you can tell that I could tell right away like she was going to be kind of a hassle, which is fine. My goal is to find the problems that these people are having. Obviously, this lady's issue was she was living in a house with no heat,
No.
in Alaska in the middle of the winter. She had a bunch of little electric heaters around her little chair. She had no bed available to sleep on. There was, I'm just going to get into the horrors of this. There was dog crap all over the place, human feces all over I mean, it was a mess. But it's like, what's this lady doing by herself in this house, living here in this big house? And come to find out after picking for a while, I found out that, her family just kind of left her to the wolves. They didn't want anything to do with her. So she didn't have any help. She's just kind of stuck in this house. Um, and so negotiating was one of the hats I was wearing. And that takes time, especially with some people. You could go back and forth for weeks, and it took weeks on this property to go back and forth on. Driving to her house, going home, getting paperwork ready, driving there, and her not being ready yet, going back home, and so it was kind of a mess. And then um, what I like to do is I like to make sure my buyers are aware of properties I'm getting under contract. So like I'm kind of like going ahead of the game and making sure that what price they're going to want this house at. So there's a lot like of negotiating going on. Um, One of the problems that she was having, and this was kind of the main thing, she didn't have anyone to help her move.
Mm.
She didn't have help at all. So I offered to actually move her out of the property. And that was, a day of packing all her stuff up and spending time with her, going to her new place and moving everything in. And, I was nice to her. I wanted to be her friend and help her out. And she was very grateful for that. But I think that's the reason why she chose to sell to me, because there was plenty of people that were going to her house and trying to call her and stuff and leave mailers and everything. Um, so that took days out of my time. I also had a realtor involved. So with this deal, I I couldn't find a buyer in time. I set the terms. I set the terms all wrong. I didn't have enough inspection period, so I brought a realtor to the table because I couldn't find a buyer. So now I'm negotiating with this realtor who's kind of like, I'm having to go in between him with his buyers and stuff. So I'm talking to him and he's sending buyers over and they're negotiating with me. And then I have my title lady talking to him and to me. So it's like the communication was weird. Um, and it was kind of a nightmare. The logistics of that deal was kind of a nightmare. And that was actually the last one I did. And I was kind of like, all right, I need a break for a little bit. I made a good amount of money. I made like $20,000. I had to pay my EMD lender on that. Um, but yeah, it was kind of a nightmare. And then the follow up's everything. Being a
Mhm.
wholesaler, got to find out when to follow up, what systems to use. That can be a nightmare. I think I probably used like 5 different systems and CRMs and list pullers and stuff.
Mhm.
So great way to get experience. Great way to start understanding your market, and overall, just like getting that proof of concept by doing your first deal is everything. Because like now I look back at wholesaling, I'm like, dude, I could go wholesale the crap out of some houses right now. Like, buying these creative deals right now has been hard for me. So it's like I look back, I'm like, "Dang, that would be easy at this point."
How long did it take you from getting started in wholesaling to closing your first deal, right? We talked about your last deal, but like what was the length from starting to first deal closed and done?
Through being in the education paralysis, I spent a year and a half just kind of watching YouTube videos and listening to people. I jumped into the TTP program with Brent Daniels. That was great. I think it kind of pushed me in the right direction, let me know I was figuring out the right stuff. Um, I would say it took me about 2 years to get my first deal. From actively calling and stuff, 6 months. So it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
And actually, my first deal came from a referral
Mm.
friend. So that was pretty awesome. Just by going out there and telling people what you're doing, what you're looking for, really does it can pay off. It can seriously pay off. So
Yeah, and there's concern with internally, mindset wise, of announcing to people this is what I'm doing or this is what I am, right? So you're getting into real estate, and a lot of the podcasts and books say, tell yourself I'm a real estate investor, regardless of your experience level. But if you start identifying as that, but it can be a little intimidating too, because A, you have the imposter syndrome of, and I haven't done a deal. Am I really a real estate investor at this point? Like even when you're wholesaling, you don't own any properties. You're still an investor. It's just a different strategy. And then getting over that imposter syndrome and worrying about what's everyone else going to think? Like, oh, he's doing that real estate thing, or like, oh, why are you doing that when you could have this safe, secure job? Stay in the Army, stay in the Air Force, or go to college, get a job. And like, there's concern with that. But like what you're saying shows that the more people that know what you're doing, the more it benefits you and the more it can benefit them, right? So you got the referral and I'm sure they got paid something, right? A little bit, right? And you did all the work, you got paid the majority of it, but just by announcing what you're doing, he got paid, you're getting paid, you're helping a seller, you're working through all those things. But the mindset of, oh boy, I'm putting myself out there, what is everybody going to think? That's when that starts creeping in. Did you have difficulty with that at first, kind of talking about what you're doing and kind of announcing that to everybody and talking about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first off, everyone I knew, like no one, there's not a lot of people in my circle that are doing real estate investing, and to tell them what a wholesaler does. Oh, so do you have a real estate license? I'm like, no, you could just go to the title company and do it yourself. Like you don't need a realtor. So it was hard for sure. And now I look back at it and I'm like, there's no business out there that doesn't do marketing before they start. Like every business is out there putting themselves out there before the building even goes up. So
100%.
it's like, why
100%.
wouldn't I do that? Why wouldn't I tell people what I'm doing before I do my first deal?
Right.
So it
And
is a it is a confidence thing for sure. Like you got to believe in yourself, and that's hard for a lot of people. Like a lot of people have grown up with, including me, like, I need to be performing in order to feel that I'm adequate enough to do what I'm saying I'm doing. So yeah. I just put a video out on my YouTube of talking about, the four limiting beliefs that I've been reading about in a book I'm reading. And the book's called Search for Significance. It's a really, really good book. It's all about self-worth and getting over limiting beliefs and things like that. And it talks about how people get trapped in limiting beliefs like the performance trap, where people only feel good when they're doing great things. That's not what life's about. So, like, if I were to be happy only when I got to point B, like, it's such a small window of happiness. So, got a
yeah.
little off, got a little off on a tangent there, but
No, I think that's important. I was just having on another episode that's coming out this week, um, this Sunday, the 30th. But I was having the same conversation where you work towards this goal of let me close my first deal, and then you get there and like sure you're happy for a second, the paycheck's nice, and then like you said, it's just a short window of satisfaction. It's like now let's go on to the next one, and like that goalpost is constantly moving away, and that's why it's important to focus on the joy of the journey and not just like the end result of what you're looking for. Like that's the struggle that I know people can have, and that can keep people from not achieving what they want because they're so focused on what they want, the end result, and not enjoying the journey. And if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to want to do the work. If you don't do the work, you're not going to get the end result. So it kind of just snowballs on each other.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So what did you do to like overcome some of those limiting beliefs? Like was there any, specific like meditation or mindset stuff that you did to overcome the limiting beliefs that you were kind of facing?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've overcome them yet, but I think just starting to recognize when I'm thinking like this and starting to change that belief about it has definitely allowed me to start thinking differently when trials and tribulations come along.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I try not to, number one, I try not to reward myself too much. I used to reward myself for every little thing I did. And, when trials come along, it's like, okay, cool. I'm doing something right. I'm having a either failure right now, or I'm struggling to get through this. Like, this is good for me. This is good for my soul. I'm working through it. I know I'm going to get through it. Like waves come and waves go. Like it's all just a matter of time. So
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. Ups and downs, it's going to happen in anything you do, business, real estate, health, fitness. It's going to happen. Just kind of force working through that, whether that's leaning on, an accountability buddy or just a friend, right? You have Jesse in your same area. You guys go to the gym, like that's together. That's great to be able to have that other person who's dealing with the same thing that you are, because maybe they're up and you're down and you can kind of balance each other out. And then when they're down, you're up and you can balance each other out that way. And it's just using those people around you to get through some of those hard times. And that's the great thing about, community, whether it is, the Growth Co mentorship that we did, or, the TTP community that you joined, or just, friends doing similar things. So
yeah,
that's definitely the biggest thing. So
totally.
you went from wholesaling, you mentioned now you're looking buy and holds. What does the business look like now, and what are you working on moving forward?
Well, that's a great question. What does my business look like now? There's lots of pieces, and some of them don't fit. So I've hired an operations manager.
Hmm.
His name is Brandon Moncrief. He's
Hmm.
a super awesome guy. I didn't hire him with like a whole bunch of experience with creative finance, um, but he was kind of my first dealio after mentorship. Um, I was in school full time for HVAC last year while I was going through the mentorship, so I didn't really have a whole lot of time to start reaching out to wholesalers, because that's what I do is I do wholesaler outreach, try to buy deals from them, path of least resistance. uh, and I have my operations manager underwrite deals. I also have another business partner, my brother Nick Debach. He is my capital raiser. So far, we've raised probably like $3 million.
Well,
So it feels great in that sense. We're ready to go on some deals, but I haven't been the greatest lighthouse right now. I mean, we're tracking our KPIs and trying to figure out what we're doing wrong, but we're bringing in anywhere from 50 to 100 deals a week. So it's a slow start. I've been at it for about a month and a half now. So not a lot of time. I one of the main struggles I've had so far is just getting over the fact that this is not an overnight thing. Right?
hmm.
Like that's been kind of my biggest struggle is like I see all these people buying houses and buying. I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing wrong? I'm not doing anything wrong. I just need to take more action and keep plugging away day to day and just enjoy the process. So I actually have kind of recently overcome this negative mindset, and that's been a pretty big win for me. Um, just recognizing it and talking about it with my accountability group. I have an accountability group, Nathaniel Hobbs Sapien and Jim Labella,
Mm.
two really awesome guys, and we're all going through similar things at different times. So it's really nice to surround yourself with people that are going to lift you up when you're feeling down. So that's been pretty big, having them, and then going to the gym with my mentor and friend, and talking to people like you, and just talking about it. So it's been a process, but we're looking to buy our first deal here soon. Our main exit strategy is going to be pad split and sober living. Um, I chose sober living because I wanted to have a little bit more drive and passion in my business. I myself used to be a pretty hardcore addict with opiates, and I just have a passion to help people out. I've been through recovery. I know what it's like. It's extremely hard. I know how important accountability is. I know how important it is to be honest and open about stuff like this. So it's been a journey. So
Mhm. Yeah. It took you 6 months to get your first wholesale deal, which is, like I said, pretty solid, right? Some people are 9 months, some people are a year, 2 years, some people have been working on it for years and still haven't gotten anything done. So, like you said, it's slow and steady, and that's why business is hard, especially in the beginning. It's people want to see, especially nowadays with social media and Google and the internet. It's like, I want to know it. I want to know it now. I want to get there. I want to get there now. And, enjoying the process and just letting things flow, just having confidence that you're putting in the work and that it'll result in something. And you mentioned too that you're seeing what other people are doing. They're buying deals, they're doing this. You don't know what they're doing necessarily behind the scenes or how much longer they've been at it than you. So it's easy to see, like, I can see the gap on where I'm getting to, where I want to get to, and rather than the gain of look at where I am now as opposed to a month or a month and a half ago. And it sounds like you've kind of worked through some of that. You mentioned negative mindset that you were dealing with, and it sounds like that was kind of part of it. So it's just constantly, it doesn't mean it won't come back in just because you fixed it a little bit. It will sneak back in, but it's just reminding yourself, like, okay, it's all right. I'm in this for the long haul. And the only time that I fail is when I quit altogether.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
So
I need
you
to
mentioned, you go to the gym, your gym partner, Jesse. Let's talk a little bit about the health and fitness portion of your life. I know that's a big part of your life. So how did that get started? What's your journey in that been like?
My journey in fitness, it's been long, it's been hard, it's been painful at times. I like your No Bull sweatshirt, by the way.
Thanks.
They got thick training shoes, dude.
Yeah, I have a bunch of those. And my buddy, you should see my buddy John. He has a closet full. He loves Noble, all different colors and all that stuff.
They're awesome, nice flat footed. So, um, yeah, my journey's been ever since I got out of high school. I was partying in high school quite a bit, or outside of high school. I didn't know what I was going to do for a while. I got in with the wrong crowd. I got addicted to opiates at that time, and I went to a rehab in Alabama, Coleman, Alabama. Just this raggedy old farm, like bunch of Christian dudes. Like it was freaking awesome. No, I didn't know what the heck I was gonna expect getting down there, but because it was like this little old farm, and I was living in a bunkhouse with a bunch of guys, like, and they were all way worse off than me. I mean, methamphetamines is terrible down in Alabama, so like their addictions were just, I mean, terrible. So, anyways, I got there and started lifting with some of these guys because they had this little. We were in this like old barn, dude, and they had these some old equipment, some grungy equipment in this barn, and I just started lifting there and trying to gain weight, and I'm drinking shakes and doing all the protein powders and eating all the food, all the cheesy grits down there and sweet tea.
No
So,
lack of calories down there.
no lack of calories. I think I gained like 10, 15 pounds in a couple months. But and for me, like I have my metabolism super fast. I've always been like if I stop working out, I get skinny and small.
Mhm.
So I've been blessed with that. But I've been working out ever since, like throughout the army. I mean, I was pretty much, I got into bodybuilding pretty hard. And I would say, I don't know if you know who Colin Von Moger is.
Mhm.
No, he looks just like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he actually played him in one of his documentaries.
Mm.
But he had this funny vlog and just this big Australian dude, and he's running around like working out and doing stuff with his lizard named Baz and stuff. And so I just connected with that and kind of got motivated and pumped up from that. So I got into bodybuilding while I was in the army and lifted pretty heavy the whole time I was in. I did have an ankle surgery while I was in the army that really I mean, to this day, it still affects me. I blew out my ankle running with all my gear, like sprinting in full, my rucksack, my armor and everything, and had to get like basically my ankle reconstructed when I got back from Poland. And but I kept running, kept lifting. I just rolled my ankle so bad that it tore a bunch of stuff.
Oof.
And getting through injury was like the first big injury I had since lifting, and it was super hard because I'd made all this progress, and then I'm taking all these steps back, and I'm having to relook at how I'm working out, and I not everybody likes change. A lot of it's really easy to be comfortable. So I switched that up, and coming out of the army, I broke my collarbone and got a bunch of plates in there, and I was at my peak. I would say my peak right before then. I was doing a lot of cardio. I was 205 pounds, feeling my best. I was probably at about 10% body fat, so I was really lean. And I had a coach for a long time before I got out of the army. His name's Devin, super cool guy. He gave me my meal plans, gave me my workout plans, and I worked out with him all the time at this gym, this Vasa Fitness gym in Colorado Springs, and just learned a lot from him, especially on how to eat. And eating can be different for everyone. I would say my favorite way to eat is to carb cycle. Um, I don't know if you know what that is, but I'll just kind of tell you real quick. What I did was I'd eat my carbs around my workouts, so I'm burning those and using them to recover. But in the the longer periods of recovery, I do mainly protein. So staying lean. My body really liked that. I've always been a pretty lean guy, but there was also another time where I was bulking and I just got super heavy and big. My knees hurt, and my shoulders hurt. I could lift a bunch, but it was like wasn't that fun.
Yep.
So, but anyways, yeah. After I broke this collarbone, I think a lot changed for me. This was a couple years ago, 3 years ago, and I actually got addicted into opiates again when I broke this. The army was not going to give me surgery. No doctors would see me because they messed up my insurance coming out of the army. My recruiters didn't put it on my paperwork for some reason. And I went a month without surgery. And anyways, I got hooked on painkillers and didn't get off them for like 2 months. So and they were heavy. I got them black market through a buddy because I couldn't find anything, and it turns out they actually ended up having fentanyl in them. So I got extremely addicted to these pills, and it completely wiped out like basically any momentum I had had. It was extremely difficult, but I ended up quitting right after I had surgery, and yeah, my journey began then, and so my shoulder. I mean, just having to go from like lifting super heavy and your ego being huge, and being able to do whatever you wanted and feeling great. I had to start using bands every day, just band workouts, doing that stuff, and lots of stability work. So it was kind of it was a trial for me for sure. And since then I've gained some strength, but this last winter I separated this shoulder snow machining in Alaska up here, and so like every injury that comes by, you just learn to work through it. I always kept working. I would never stop and rest. I think that's the main thing. A lot of people get injuries and they just stop moving. I need to recover and rest, and then everything just tightens and gets worse, and then your body mechanics change. And I think that's one of the main things I think that saved me was I would go and do whatever I could to keep moving, and it got me through these injuries. And I'm able to lift with basically no pain at this point. I had a really bad knee while I was in the army as well. I started doing some of the ATG split squats and doing some backwards running and walking and sled pulls backwards. So My knee got really strong. But I have 2 hernias right now.
Man,
So it doesn't end.
it doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop. Um, yeah, I just found out I had a CAT scan a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, that I have a bilateral fat containing um, hernias.
Mm,
So one on each side. I really only feel one, but it's not so bad right now that I can't do anything. So I'm just not doing squats and doing like
mm.
really, lifting where I'm super tensed up and stuff. So it's been a lot of isometric stuff, but I'm still going after it. I'm gonna get the surgery eventually and
Mm.
keep moving, but yeah, maybe take care of myself a little bit more after this.
Yeah, like you said, it's not stopping completely, right? Just because you're hurt doesn't mean, like, if you hurt your shoulder, right? Yeah, you want to avoid certain things that inflame it or, would injure it or damage it more, but working around it, right? Because once you start or stop doing other things, like you said, it starts causing issues. People stop working out, and then once you get out of that routine and that habit, when things are finally healed and fixed, it's hard to get back into it if they ever do. So it's just like, okay, yeah, I'm working through this hurdle, this injury. How can I move forward with it, continuing with my routine, continuing to do something so that way I don't regress into losing that habit and not doing anything at all, right? It might be easy to use it as an excuse. Luckily, you would develop that habit over the years, and I'm sure working out through all of those years has made some of those injuries and some of the recovery at least a little bit better, a little bit easier than somebody who maybe is dealing with a knee thing that pops up because they've been so complacent when it comes to getting into the gym. So hopefully do you think that's helped over the years? Is just at least having that foundation of like muscle and gym habits?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. And yeah, it kind of goes back to, business as well. Like these habits that I have in the gym, they didn't come overnight. Like it took, months and months to really develop a good habit in the gym. And then after taking months off for an ankle surgery, and you have to get back into it, but the momentum is there. It just takes a little bit of time. And then in business as well, like it's it's not an easy thing to put yourself out there every day and talk to people and talk about business, especially when you're new. It takes time, and but once the habit's there, it's like it's easy. Like the gym is easy for me. I ate clean and good for so long that eating clean for me now is really easy. I don't touch a lot of sugar. I eat a lot of meat. That makes me feel really good. The carbs and sugars always make me feel really bloated. So it's just like kind of learning habits and knowing what feels good for you and recognizing things that are wrong and stuff. So
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, the translation from health and fitness into business is very similar. You have the foundational habits of going to the gym and eating well. So that's become easy for you. Whereas there's some people who don't have that health and fitness, and the business for them is easy because they've been doing it so long. They've been putting in the reps, and they're like, oh yeah, like the business, like, oh, I just started a second business or a third business. It's easy for them because they put in those habits. But when they go to look at health and fitness and working out, and they haven't done that forever, it's super overwhelming for the same way that I felt overwhelmed when I first started with the analysis paralysis that you had mentioned before. Is like, I have to know everything before I start. There's so many ways to make money in real estate. There's so many ways to get healthy by eating, so many different diets, so many different ways to eat. Everybody reacts differently. So it's seems easy from the outside because nobody's seen you the years you put on the work for health and fitness. Just like people who have closing deals all the time, it seems easy on our end to them, but they've been doing it for so long. So what for somebody who's looking to get started in health and fitness, since you have such an extensive background and consistency over the years, for somebody looking to get started, maybe they haven't been to the gym in a while or they haven't done anything really ever and want to get going, what's the big first tip that you give them to kind of get that momentum going?
Yeah, it depends if you're a self-starter. If you're a self-starter, like you can go learn stuff on YouTube. Just go to the gym and start burning calories. I mean, if you're sweating, you're doing something right. If you're not as much of a self-starter, you may need a coach or accountability partner, someone to go to the gym with that knows a little bit more what they're doing. There's so many coaches out there. Yeah, I think when I first got started, like heavy bodybuilding, my coach only charged me like 80, $100 a month. Like I worked out some deal with him.
Yeah.
So it wasn't much, but for my health, that's nothing.
Mhm.
Uh, but what was I going to say? Yeah, I would just start by going. That's the first thing, and then just learning how you like to work out. I mean, not everybody likes to do hardcore cardio CrossFit. Some people like to just lift machines. Some people like to do free weights. Make it fun. Yeah, make it fun for yourself. And then, don't get caught up in, this testosterone pill or this, the pills and supplements. From my 10 years of experience, I would say there's no pill or supplement that really helps, especially protein powder. Like people think protein powders are super awesome. And this is just my opinion. I think they are a good supplement, but that's only 2% of your recovery. Not
Mhm.
the bulk of it is rest and good food and eating equal times throughout the day.
Mhm.
Like, a lot of people who fast. And for me, fasting has never really done that much. Not if you're doing it all the time. I think that just eating every 3 hours, small meals, your proteins, things are going to help you recover. Drinking lots of water, some most important thing.
100%. And I think when people get into health and fitness, you mentioned the supplements, it's easy to, some people just want to take that pill. They want that instant gratification. And the result, I've been at this for 3 weeks. Why haven't I seen any results? And it's the same thing with business and real estate. It's like, you got to give it time. It's everybody progresses at a different speed, and just sticking with it. And like you said, find what you enjoy, find what's fun. And sometimes it takes a month or two to do the same thing over and over again, because you're going to be excited at first when you first start it. If it's, just running, like, cool, it's fun, it's exciting, and then it gets boring. And you've got to work through that boring part to go, oh, is this something that I really enjoy? Or do I need to try something different? And it's okay to switch to something different.
Yeah,
Finding what's fun will make you go, and just going, like just showing up, getting a sweat in. At the end of the day, that's what's most important. And figuring out what that thing is that makes you be able to do it long term will get you there, and not trying to take the shortcuts of the supplements and the weight loss pills and drugs and all that stuff. Like, just do it right, do it slow, have fun. And if you're struggling to figure out what that is, like you said, hire a coach to help speed up that process and at least guide you or help you through some of those, valleys that you're going to go through eventually. Like we discussed in real estate, those peaks and valleys are going to happen. Having somebody accountability wise, whether it's a coach or a friend, to get you through that is going to be super important.
100%. Yeah, and then people got to remember, like even if you stop working out, like after building a habit for so long, it comes back twice as fast. Muscle comes back twice as fast.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's crazy how easy the body remembers things like that. And then, like, there may not be instant gratitude for, seeing results, but I think after, if you hit it hard enough, every workout, you'll feel like it spikes dopamine. Like, yeah, it feels good to work out. It builds momentum. It builds momentum in your whole life. So
For sure. I've never gone to the gym. Like, there's been a ton of times where I didn't want to go to the gym at all. It's cold, I'm tired, whatever. But I would go and just do something, even if it wasn't full effort. But there's never been a time after going where I've been like, I really regret going. I feel worse after going, right? Outside of maybe like getting injured or whatever, but it's so rare and infrequent. I've never gotten home from the gym and been like, I shouldn't have gone. I regret it. It's like you always feel great for the rest of the day for it.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome. So Where can people reach out to you, find out more information, or get in touch with you? Maybe they have a deal that they want to send over, or they have a question on health and fitness, they're struggling with something. What's the best way to get in contact with you?
Best way to get in contact with me is on Facebook, Jacob Debach, Delta Echo Bravo Alpha Charlie Hotel. Looks like Debach, but it's Debach. I also have a YouTube channel with my brother. It's called the Debach Bros. And yeah, if you reach out to me on Facebook, I will give you my number. I'll help you underwrite your deals. I can bring private money to the table. I can help you get your first deal. I just, want to give back. That's what it's all about. So
Awesome. And I will link your Facebook and the YouTube channel in the show notes and all that. Jacob, thanks for popping on, man. I appreciate it. Great conversation. We'll have to do a follow-up, after a couple deals, we can look at some stuff. And it'd be awesome to have another chat with you down the road.
yeah, thanks for doing the underwriting Zooms too. Those are freaking awesome.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, dude. Thanks, man.
All right.
See ya.
Later. Are we getting off?
Yeah. I do have to hop off for my Zoom.
Okay.
But no, thanks, dude, man. I appreciate you jumping on. If you need anything in the future or anything,